Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unqualified Film Burrows podcast, talking today about one of my favorite films that also is somewhat of a holiday film, which it's good I remembered because I almost forgot. We're talking today about Billy Wilder's The Apartment, and I got to start off by just saying one of my favorite aspects of The Apartment is that I do feel that though it's a classic, even people with like consistently like terrible tastes in movies and all that can still enjoy it. Like even like people who like are just terrible when it comes to their taste in
You say
films
that.
love it. Anyway, George, what do you think of the film The Apartment?
I'm catching strays here. The one time we let Declan host, and I'm sitting here,
You
I'm
know,
being
it's like
attacked.
I got to take the opportunity when I can.
Um,
No, no,
yeah,
I
this film has a unique place in film history because its subject matter was so taboo for film at the time. Nobody talked about, men having affairs with their mistresses in
Mhm.
mainstream cinema in 1960.
Mhm.
Billy Wilder put together a truly unique film. That being said, with this concept, I don't know if this is the story I would have told.
Mm. Oh yeah.
And I touched on that briefly in my Letterboxd review, but I'll elaborate a little bit that, you know, I think we see, especially in the first act, how, you know, everything that Baxter goes through um, by lending his apartment out basically night by night, how that has a negative impact on his life, on his mental health, on his physical health. Um, but then the second and third acts of the movie really focus more on his relationship with Fran and you know and Sheldrake and how it sort of hones in on that love triangle, that dynamic, using the apartment as a framing device of how they're all sort of interconnected. But at the same time, you sort of lose the concept of the movie, which was
Mm.
this guy is letting other people at his work, at his place of business, use his apartment for affairs. And I think that that's really fun. I think that there's a way to sort of play that up a little bit more than this movie does.
You saying
Um,
you wanted to see a man being forced to watch other people use his apartments, like, and not being able to do anything about it?
Honestly, I was ready to refute that, but yeah, kind of.
Mm, mm,
I think, there was a way to tell
mm,
a story with this
mm,
film in a way that sort of, I don't know, plays up how wild that situation is. And I
mm,
feel like in the second and third acts, we sort of get a little bit of it when we see Baxter's other coworkers for the first time in like, I don't know, 40 minutes late in the
mm.
movie. And, you know, even though we
I
got
mean,
away
it's
from that,
like Lost Weekend.
we could do more with the concept than just using it for setup for a love story.
Mm,
I mean,
okay.
I
Okay.
I understand that, but I disagree in that you would lose a lot of like the actual emotional impact of the film if you just reduced it to comedy. Like I think
Yeah.
Wilder's best stuff is that it blends the comedy with, an emotional story. And if you just focused on the apartment, like, the ridiculousness that can come about that, you'd probably reduce it to like a film that
Hmm.
would not be the same caliber.
Oh,
I will
absolutely.
say,
I'm not saying that, it would be a better film.
mhm.
My idea would not be a better film. This film is, like I said before, unique. It tells a story that is so fresh in the entertainment canon. I'm just saying that maybe I feel like I say this a lot. I expected a different movie. That's
Mm,
not to say I didn't enjoy the movie that we watched, because I did enjoy this movie and I would see it again.
mm,
But I I couldn't help but think,
mm.
there was another way to do it.
Yeah. It's
But this
interesting. I
story
would
was
say
good.
Yeah, I would say actually like like one of like my favorite aspects of the film. So it is interesting that you sort of like could one of my favorite aspects of the film is honestly like to some extent it's the like story, but like even more than that, kind of almost on like a technical level, I feel the script of this film is like extremely well crafted. Like I joke about like it pissing me off how many like setups and payoffs are like so subtly like put into every single scene in the film just because there's quite a few of them that like on second and third watches you notice and it's just like wow, I can't believe you just included that, Billy Wilder, you hack. Like, you know, you think you're so good at writing, just subtly having him go like three and then later having, or no, it's go like three and then later having Fran go like three. And it's like, wow, that's
I
really
noticed that.
funny. I'm like, it pissed me off. No, but it's like I feel that like the script is like almost like almost perfect. At the same time, I do think it's like, oh, that's an interesting idea about like different ways to approach the concept. But I kind of feel like the 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 journey that CC Baxter and even Fran go on is like just remarkably well told. Like it's just like every single story piece fits together so like seamlessly and perfect and like perfectly that like I feel like I learned something about writing when I rewatch the film now, and that might be why it's one of my favorites. But like
You know what
I'm
I'm
just
gonna
like
say.
yeah.
You know what
Sorry,
I'm
what?
gonna say.
What are you gonna say?
Dialogue of movies from this time and earlier does not hold up. You know,
I
nobody in
disagree.
2023 says buddy boy
Yeah,
once, let alone probably
It
40 times in
doesn't
this movie.
matter. People read Shakespeare all the time. What do you mean hold up though? Like
that's
I'm
true.
just saying
people don't talk the same way.
the way people
Al-
talk in this movie is not the way people talk today.
Also, I want to be
So
clear.
when
That's
Saying,
bossy,
Declan,
sort of
when
what do
you
you
condescending.
mean hold
when you
up?
say something like I learned something about writing, it's like, yeah,
All
I
right.
learned something about how writing was 63 years ago.
No, no,
We're not
no.
talking about. I'm not
George,
talking
that
about
is no,
diet.
that's a ridiculous criticism. I'll defend Declan here, okay?
Yeah.
Because he just pointed
Shocker.
out he just pointed out a fucking like an absolutely universal joke, and you're
Yeah.
criticizing the writing. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, shame on you.
No, that was well crafted. I will give the film this. It has many
Look,
well
there are
crafted
so
moments,
many
setups,
things
and payoffs like that.
there are
Yeah.
so
But
many things that people also George, you give consistent 5-star reviews to Marvel films. I don't remember the last time that I've
bullshit,
talked like a
consistent.
Marvel. You've given at least 5 Marvel films 5 stars, and I don't ever remember talking about, or at
Mm.
least 4.5. Regardless,
Mm.
I don't talk
Okay,
about
you had
Marvel films.
Quantumania at 4 stars until last week.
Hey, you realize the
But
mistake
I'm
of
not
that.
the one making this criticism.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
that's a
just saying you're
ridiculous.
not at fault here, or you are at fault, not in the same way I
What?
am. Anyway,
No, look, George. You got to relax on the writing bit, all right?
Yeah.
There's so many things to learn from this that are absolutely universal.
Mm.
Just like the people that look to the fucking Bible, all right,
Yeah.
that reinvent those stories. That is, I refuse to. I am fine for artistic
may
criticism, but
may
that's
I
logically bad.
Yeah.
may I
Yes,
respond?
you
May
can.
I respond
All right.
and
Let's
and
hear it.
rework what I said
Okay.
to appease you both from a strictly
Content.
from a strictly words on the page
Mm.
perspective. Writing for film has evolved
Sure. Sure.
In some ways, it's
from
evil.
a storytelling perspective, setups and payoffs, like Declan pointed out. This is brilliant. Love it. Obviously, a lot to take away. But to say, as an overarching idea that this is an indicator of what film writing should be, I disagree.
I
There
like
are some
I
things that are outdated, but the one thing, like, there are so many
That's all I'm
brilliant.
saying. That's all I'm
mm,
saying.
Yeah, but that's like you can still learn. It's literally like typing up a thesaurus and saying, "All right, what did they use this for?" And you could
mm,
use that one word or that one phrase, and it would
mm,
still be brilliant today.
mm.
Like when they're playing Jin, and she's still, like, out there with sleeping pills, and he's like, "All right, you got
I
to
just want to
draw."
point out I am boss at Gin Rummy.
Are you actually? I
I
need to
am
learn how to
so
play.
I have been playing that game my entire life. I am so goddamn good at it.
I I have never played, so
Mm.
Oh, Ben, DC in February. We're gonna
all
play.
right, we can
Yeah.
uh we can record it.
Mm.
Yes. We will put it on the channel. Me and Ben playing Gin Rummy.
Amen.
But there are a few lines in the movie, but one of the ones that I really love is that she's literally, recovering from suicide,
Mm.
and Jack Lemon's there, like, all right, you got to draw your cards, and she's like, do I have to? And he says, yeah, you should see my hand. Or, I think I messed up the line, but it's like
Mm.
it's a incredible delivery, incredible writing.
I give
Also,
so much
also,
credit to Jack Lemmon for
mm,
elevating every single one of his lines.
that is
He
true.
gives an
That is true.
all-time performance here. He's
He's a
fantastic.
great actor, but
Yeah,
every actor is going to do that. Sorry, every good actor is going to do that.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
every actor.
yeah.
I
Also, Shirley
not a
MacLaine is like,
advocate there.
yeah. I also love Shirley MacLaine here, and Fred McMurray as Sheldrake. Which like I feel like it is kind of remarkable how many masks he wears, where he's like speaking total shit to Fran and being like, I'm actually not in love with my wife at all. It's all you, and then like in later scene, it's like, oh my gosh, you take her out for laughs, and then all of a sudden she's she's like thinks like the world of you, and all that. Like, but I want to say, just like to be clear, obviously you can't write a film exactly like The Apartment today. Obviously, the craft of screenwriting has changed, but I think there is more than ample reason to be able to look back on like a pillar of an art form, and like still be there's still much to learn from it.
Absolutely.
Like the foundational like classics in literature are still read, even if we obviously wouldn't write a play exactly like how Shakespeare
Yeah, it's
or
not
Yeah.
like you can't translate one thing from another, but just because it's like outdated in some ways, I think
Though
it,
I also hate your
controversial.
I feel like you are always way too overly critical about the like unrealisticness of old movie dialogue, because real people don't actually talk like they talk in new movies as well.
People
Well, I
don't
mean,
talk.
I say that about older movies because one, I wasn't alive in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. So you know, I don't have the life experience of people calling me, you know, buddy boy and,
Well, I don't either,
anything.
but I
But
don't find it as like you like actively find it, repressive. Like, oh my
I
God.
thought it was funny. You know, I enjoy the
Yeah, I mean,
dialogue
you still
of
get the
old movies.
condescending nature.
I
Like,
enjoy the dialogue of old movies if I can't connect with it. And I think, not being able to connect with it, maybe that's just immaturity on my part.
I think you
I'm willing to concede that. Declan, you're not looking
literally
afraid.
just need to watch more old movies, and then you
Yeah.
get it's like what like re
Don't torture me with that. Kidding.
oh
I'm
my
kidding. I'm
like
kidding.
reading. Yeah, I mean it's like changing genres, or reading old versus new, or reading like poetry versus something else. Everything is a little different, but there's so much you can gain from every single like period in art, uh, every art form. So I think it's important to like, yeah, buddy boy is not a big thing. There are some aspects of this, the whole like secretary nature of women. Obviously, women are
Well,
way more
that's that's something else I wanted to talk about because
Mhm.
Shirley MacLaine's character, first of all, incredible performance.
Mhm.
Second of all, like I said in my sort of opening thoughts, this movie took something that wasn't usually talked about in that time and put it on film to a
Mhm.
mainstream audience with big name stars. But focusing specifically on Fran, you know, the mistress in a lot of movies, when she wasn't dying at the end of the movie, she was having, you know, a rough outcome, we'll say, at the end of a lot of films of that time. And
Mhm.
to give the character of Fran not even just, an average ending, but that look of hope when the two of them are sitting together on the couch at the end of the movie, the
Mhm.
smiles, they're clearly in love with each other. To give
Mhm.
that character who is, she operates an elevator in a major, office building. She was in love with her boss and now she's, involved with Baxter. There's all these different almost things that are happening to her rather than things that she's doing in her life. And to see this character take on a sense of agency throughout the film and then end up with a truly happy ending, even though she tries to commit suicide in the
Mhm.
movie,
You know,
she
Yeah.
survives that and comes out a stronger character. That
Mhm.
is a remarkably well written character. And then the performance on top of it combined to do something historic for a movie that came out in 1960.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That is a
do think.
fantastic character.
Mhm. I think again another reason I love the film. I do think the strength of the characters, like the performers here are so top notch that they bring like a lot to this already fantastic script. Like I do feel like Shirley MacLaine's like the sympathy she's able to create for for Fran and like show just like the just utter like devastating conflict she's like experiencing is like deeply deeply moving. And I also like how Baxter starts off like immature and all that, but not like explicitly so, but like like it's like not, but like again, Jack Lemmon kind of just subtly conveys it in things, but at the same time, when he suddenly realizes Fran is actually like in having a crisis, like instantly like switches over and like tries to help her, and I do feel like that again. It's just a lot of just brilliant character work here in my opinion. It's like it's all builds on top of each other for the arc that each person experiences here.
also
Shelley. Yeah.
like you said, brilliant writing. I mean,
Mhm.
when she's having her issue, it's when he's bringing home that lady, I forget her name,
Yeah, yeah.
Mag
Astro Woman.
Maggie.
That's like literally the funniest thing like fucking ever. Like I mean it's like I'm not saying like it's literally like peak comedy, but it's peak comedy, when she's like, yeah, you ever hear of Castro? Joe, who's that? The guy in cute. Like I love that so much. It's yeah, and then she just gets kicked out, and that's it,
There's
But
this,
with the
I know
doctor,
he
Never to
got
be
right?
seen
arrested.
again.
He got arrested in Havana. Oh, he got mixed up in that whole thing. No, I forget what his job. He was like a God. What was so stupid?
Yeah, and
Oh, he was
also
a jockey. He was
yeah,
racing
she
horse.
like mentions it's like 5'9", 99 pounds.
But
But that
the thing I was gonna say is, so he brings back Maggie while he's drunk and everything, and depressed. And then he sees Fran out and realizes that she's out um, on sleeping pills, and like immediately kicks out Maggie, gets the doctor, and then he juxtaposes that with
I would
Jeff.
just like to point out that he doesn't get the doctor, he gets his neighbor. He made that very
Mm.
clear. He
Oh,
did it
that's
as a
true. That's true.
neighbor.
He did it as neighbor Dreyfus, not doctor.
Thank you. Continue.
Um, but yeah, you compare that with Jeff, who's like, no, this isn't really a good time for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, don't you want to talk to her?
Don't you want?
I have to
I think
leave.
it does a great job.
Yeah.
But
Nah,
it's kind
ass.
of a weird thing. It came out in 1960, which is a little early for countercultural stuff. But in
Mhm.
some ways, it is like there are countercultural themes, and that you're tackling, the capitalist system where people
Yeah.
use each other
It,
to get the top.
it's
Um,
low key critical of there's a very decent anti-capitalist reading that one could take
yeah,
of the film.
and I think it actually is like, so we only focus on a few people, and
Mm.
they mentioned this a few times that there's like 31,000 people at this company. It's the fact that like only 5 people or 6 people matter, not only in this company, but for everyone's jobs.
Mm.
Like these are the only people that matter. And if you don't please them, you 31,000, you're not going to the top. And that sort
Mm.
of underscores, the I guess
Well,
courage it takes to just walk out on the job at the assistant director, like the second
Mm.
highest in the
Yeah.
31,000 company, that he was just one of the one minions like a week ago.
And at the same time, we barely see Sheldrake actually do any
Nobody
work.
does any
we
work.
barely see
All he's
anyone
doing
do
is
any
like,
work.
No, honestly, like he
so
does
Baxter is actually trying to do, like, at the end when he,
like
hey, I've got all this stuff and this stuff is,
like he
can you
brings
stop working?
he brings in the chart and he's getting meanwhile Sheldrake is literally getting his shoe shine like it's and he's like and he's like, oh, we have all this stuff, and he's like Baxter, it's New Year's Eve, what are you doing? I love that.
Stop working. I don't want you ever working. All right.
Oh,
Just
by the way, I'm getting divorced also, just FYI.
And the other interesting thing is that like CC Baxter and Fran are the only guys, or only people that really evolve as characters. Like the rest of the executives are the exact same.
Mm.
And I think that works like to translate today. I mean, the same exact types of people are in executive positions, do the same sorts of things,
Mm.
although more scrutinized today, but it's not a
Mm.
perfect world.
No.
And the
Yeah.
whole idea here that, Baxter can rise through the ranks. And they almost do this as sort of, because it's not the focus of the movie, him rising up through the ranks by
Mm.
letting executives use his apartment. But again, that could be the focus, and we could be looking at how he gets to where he ends up in a position at work
Mm.
through loaning out his apartment.
I
That's
think
not the focus of
focusing
the
on the
story, but using it as sort of this almost background gag or story element
Mm.
lets it sort of play up the absurdity of the idea that,
well,
this is, first of all, possible for this to happen in this company, but also for it to happen to someone like Baxter, who
Mm.
is someone who is, a dedicated employee focused on doing a good job, wants to end up, higher up, but really he's punching the clock for the first, half of the movie. And then when he starts moving up, he's like, well, I don't want to lose the progress I've made over the last few days, few weeks. So I might as well keep letting them use my apartment.
Mm.
And then he eventually
well,
discovers his own needs. And,
you
that's why that
get
moment
the
at the end is so cathartic where he leaves, is because he finally decided that, something else was more important than, capitalism.
so
Mm.
you get the idea that he had been doing that for at least like a year or so, as he explains to Jeff. Um,
That's
so he
true.
had
That's the only exposition we get for how this setup came into place.
Well, I think it's appropriate that it doesn't really matter. Like he was probably just miserable and like sleeping on sidewalks or whatever for that
Mhm.
entire year, but it didn't get him anything until finally he gets called in by the boss.
Mhm.
And it's not the recommendations of the other people that he's been giving. It's the fact that he has something for the boss to use,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's specifically Sheldrake benefiting that causes him to actually listen to the recommendation.
Well,
It has nothing to
to
and that's
that
why he just
point,
discards them, just like everyone else. Like he's
t-
part of the system in that.
to your point, it's not, you know, the recommendations of, you know, or the promised recommendations of his, middle management saying, "Oh, let us use your apartment and we'll recommend you for this promotion." It's the middle managers saying to Sheldrake, "Hey, you can get in on this too." And then Sheldrake doesn't even listen to the recommendations. He's just like, "Yeah, we'll promote this guy because he's letting me use the apartment."
Yeah, it's not even that they recommended like because if you like read into the scene, they didn't tell him anything, and in fact, they probably didn't want him to know.
Yeah,
No,
And he just sort of figured out it's like, all right, come on, guys, this guy, really,
he's so popular.
this is the most
why do
popular
people like you so much, Baxter?
41,000 company, this random minion.
This one guy.
Um, but to your point about them like not focusing on the promotion, I think that works to the strength that they
Absolutely.
focus on his like misery from it
Yeah.
and the fact that it really doesn't matter. And at the end, he leaves because I mean, what is he getting out of it? Just more and more misery. Like money is great, positions are great, but he realizes that's fleeting. Like
Mm.
at any point.
Nah, dude, relationships are fleeting, jobs are forever.
You heard it here from George Groth here first.
And it is a
But
great like foil for like Fran
mm,
and CC Baxter, who in one way Baxter is like enabling all these guys to do this.
mm,
In another way, he's being used.
yeah, it's I think it's like it's kind of like remarkable the like basically how again the thesis of not the thesis of the film but like the idea of like getting of taking versus getting took, that Fran talks about. It's the it is funny in the first part of the film, basically, Fran ultimately can't go with Baxter because she views him as just another guy who's getting taken. And like Baxter, he seems to be like, oh man, if I'll finally be impressive, like, once I get the money and like the hat and like finally all this sucking up to the bosses by letting them use my
Men should
apartment.
wear hats like that again.
Yeah, true, true. That's for a 3 hour long podcast that we'll do next week. But yes.
Early,
Declan, if you want to record a 3-hour podcast episode about hats, I'll put it on the channel.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you, George. I
but
appreciate
yeah,
But you're
it. But
doing it
no,
by
but it's
yourself.
like,
there are a bunch of like material,
mm,
things that like he feels like he needs to have.
mm,
The movie always reminds me of like American Psycho Light. I mean,
mm,
not in the way that
mm.
Oh
like
my
That's
God, if Baxter had been a serial killer.
it's a bit crazy, but like everyone is the same. All the executives are the same, and
Ben,
he's
that is like, I
no,
love
no, no.
this, but that is the most wild comp that you could have come up with for this.
it's. I mean, it's actually
Like,
it's
I
not a
get it,
bad comp.
I
No,
get it, and I love it, but that would never have occurred to me.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
If
just
you
so
if you take
wild.
away like the actual like what
Mm,
he's doing, Patrick Bateman's like murdering people, even if
yeah.
he's not murdering people, whatever.
Hey, Paul.
But
No,
but
no, no, no.
background.
Sheldrake would be the secret serial killer.
But Sheldrake would be like Paul Allen, I feel like.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
Let's see Paul Allen's card.
yeah. In this one, he is not like a higher up, and in American Psycho, Patrick Bateman is literally like the son of one of the heads of the
True.
company. He could literally do nothing and
Mm,
tons of money. So this is much more of a he actually has something to lose, um,
mm.
not just like I need to be an actual person with a personality. But I mean, at the same point, his greatest valuable thing, at least in terms of Fran, is that he leaves his job.
Yeah, literally that's when he
Stand up
becomes like
to people.
strong, kind of. I almost feel
Yeah.
like, or like he like
Because Sheldrake is
backbone
like
is.
the big boss, and it's like she's in a relationship almost because she's afraid because of his power.
Mm,
And he showed her that she could stand up to the big man.
yeah, and that he truly viewed her
And
as a
he
person.
loved. And yeah, well,
Yeah.
that he cared enough about her to actually leave something. And that
Mhm.
like Sheldrake didn't leave his wife. He kicked up the ass.
Yeah, yeah.
But he actually left the thing that he cared about,
Mm,
his stability and everything for her.
mhm.
Which
And
again
like,
it makes Sheldrake, as much as he is not the good guy of the film, it makes him a three-dimensional character with depth and motivations.
mm,
Yeah.
That,
It's not
even
just
though
a
he's
good
not the best intended, he's still human.
yeah. He's
And there's
he he
something we can grab onto with him.
Yeah, he's not evil, which makes the bad things, or rather, his lack of inaction on a lot of things far more compelling than if he was like just some like psychopath, you know.
I
And
would say Sheldrake is lawful neutral if we're putting him on
Mm,
the index there. Lawful neutral.
no, I think
that's
he's lawful evil
a
in
little
my
bit, yeah.
opinion. Yeah, I have to say lawful evil. He
That's
There's
didn't.
Patrick Bateman territory though.
hmm.
Oh no, that's Patrick Bateman is not on the. That's one place
I
that
think he
You bit.
has to be
You
chaotic
bit, Ben.
evil.
You bit.
he's a chaotic something, but I don't know whether he killed people.
He's
So
chaotic good.
chaotic good
He
in some
attacked
ways.
rich people, therefore he. Oh wait, no, but he literally kills homeless people. So no, never mind.
No, that's the thing though. I don't like. You never know whether
You
he's
like
killed.
Huey Lewis in the News? I gotta
And
rewatch
not
that movie.
the
That's a good
movie
movie.
or the book, but
Oh yeah, but it's like, but it's like I will say also another aspect of the apartment that is a bit like American Psycho, because we keep going with this. I also think like the set design here is actually really good, like especially for the apartment building, like with how like bizarrely like modern and like mechanical everything is, a lot like Patrick Bateman's hotel
oh yeah, it's
apartment.
definitely the anti-capitalist sort of
Mm,
motif behind the
yeah.
photography and there's a mise en scène.
Mm.
Yeah, I think, from a filmmaking perspective, there's nothing truly remarkable about like shot composition
Mm,
or like in the edit there are no really strong cuts that stand out.
mm,
It's pretty standard coverage throughout. You've got an establishing shot or a wide shot of the room. You got the
mm,
over the shoulders of the two characters looking at each other.
yeah.
Pretty standard fare.
Wilder always considered himself a writer for first, I will say, and not
And
in
that
his
shows in this
defense.
movie, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
consider
actually
I consider myself a writer first.
if
Mm,
you
I've
if
only
you look
directed
at
one
the
film, but
mm,
if
you
you look
know,
at the cinematography, it's shot pretty much like a sitcom almost. Uh,
mm,
which we see a lot in '60s movies.
yeah, which
mm,
is pretty common. They had much shorter shoot times, and their sets were obviously a lot less complex, given that it was made earlier on.
mm,
And also you were sharing like today movies are shot all over the place.
mm,
Back then you were sharing a lot of your lot space with other people. People had reserved it, but just like the little
mm.
cards, like, oh no, that's no good for me. Sometimes you get like 2 weeks, and it's like, all right, cram all this in. So
Mm,
yeah, if you weren't a big on the cinematography portion, sometimes you do this. Like even Hitchcock did plenty
mm.
of those, and even he did some movies like this, like Rope, which was much more of just almost a play. They're
Yeah. They sort of did one shot, but
shot.
they could also only shoot 10-minute shots. So there's like multiple times where like the camera's like Ooh, someone's shoulder. Oh, let's pull out again. It's like, man, I wonder if there was a cut in that moment that
Yeah,
happened. I can't tell.
it could be anything.
Could be anything.
God, I wish filmmaking technology of the present existed in the past, just to see what some of those guys would have done.
See, the thing is, I find it cool, but also some of the greatest things to come out of film, in my opinion, are because people were more limited in budget
Hmm,
or by technology. I mean,
true.
even like the Vertigo shot, that would never have been done. Like you
Hmm,
give them CGI and they're like, all right, let's CGI this, and it would never be the same.
hmm,
There's a little bit of an art to that. Like,
I 100% agree because,
hmm.
even today, like we talked about with Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese had to have technology invented for the to get the exact look of the film that he wanted. You know,
yeah,
George Lucas for Star Wars
Hmm.
had to have so much technology created out of what was there to make something new to create exactly what he wanted for
hey,
Star Wars.
your most
You know,
hated man, James Cameron. He's very famous for special
James
effects.
Cameron, yes, Jim as he is known by
Yeah.
some, has invented or had invented for him so much technology
Oh
in
no,
the
no,
world of filmmaking.
he's very hands-on.
Yeah,
So it just
He
a
also
little
excavated the Titanic and rebuilt it for his film. So,
that's true.
a little
but
side note, he worked with Roger Corman, who gave him his shot, and Roger Corman was so impressed by all the things he did himself, that he just hired him for multiple films and eventually got him his own feature film, and then we get James Cameron.
I wonder if Billy Wilder saw the Terminator when it came out. I wonder what Billy
Man,
Wilder would have thought of it.
I feel like he probably would, because some of these guys were actually, friends with Roger Corman. It's a very famous
Mm,
dude. Dan with a
yeah,
lot
yeah, he
of
was.
random ass people, famous people, non-famous people.
that's
Uh,
that's that's just what's so great about film is that, you know, even though there are some elements that some audience members can't connect with throughout all of time,
Mm,
it's constantly evolving.
mm,
There's always going to be new stuff. There's always going to be stuff that carries throughout different filmmaking eras. And it's just so awesome to observe, you know, the entire history of the last 100 years of filmmaking in the present,
mm,
watching and Ben, you put the thought in my head, watching The Apartment and then watching a Marvel movie. These are both films, but they're so different based on, what kind of filmmaking they are, what kind of storytelling they are, the
mm,
direction, the performances, the shots, the edit, the effects. You talk about the vertigo effect, the vertigo shot.
mhm.
That was innovative in the history of film, and it's still used, even as, elementarily as Hitchcock used it. You know, the, the way filmmaking has evolved, and I love that we're having this conversation because I could go
mm,
on and on about this all night.
yeah.
There are plenty of crazy films in the past too.
Mm,
Um, Certainly there are all the epics. Like you could compare that with a lot of the other ones. Like it's a
Yeah,
mad world.
oh gosh, yeah.
That's kind of a prototype for a lot of like modern comedy.
Mm,
Um,
mm, yeah. I
and
think
you
I
get you
think
get to
in
see
some.
an entire timeline thanks to the advent of streaming and digital media.
Mhm.
You could see, a movie from the 20s and a movie from the 2020s
Birth of a
back to
Nation.
back, and you could
Birth of
still
a Nation
pull.
and Black Panther. Back to back.
Hell yeah. Oh gosh.
I think
Oh,
you just
that's
planned Declan's next double feature.
I hate
Most
you.
cursed doubleheader.
God damn it. God
No,
damn it.
12 Years a Slave. Actually, that's probably a better one.
Ooh, oh God. Oh God. That'd be
Dramatic.
great, but also like the most uh thing
That might
imaginable.
actually be close to 100 years apart. Maybe
Mm.
a little less, but I can't
Between
remember. I
Birth
don't
of a
know.
Nation and 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah, 12 Years a
Like,
Slave was like 2012 or something.
I think it
Oh
was
yeah.
2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there, and Birth of a Nation was 1915. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah,
100 years.
get close to 100 years apart. But unlike Birth of a Nation, I do think The Apartment, even in its story, I think it's
I'm fascinated by how you're making this turn.
There's honestly many ways that the apartment is different.
the themes of The Apartment are actually relevant to are actually resonant with people
I was about to
today.
say, Birth of a Nation
That
is still
is
relevant to some people today.
You gotta pick your words carefully there, Declan.
there's
You
there's
don't have to
actual
mention Birth of a
value
Nation, by
in the
the way.
story of The Apartment, unlike the story of Birth of a Nation. I said it.
So anyway, Jack Lemmon is one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah.
And
I think even though I get what you're saying about like what you were saying earlier about like the you like see like the zany possibilities of like the story being about like him dealing like almost solely with like people using his apartments to have affairs. I do think that the relationship that develops that kind of arguably either takes over or is the actual core of the apartment. I think it is actually good enough that like the film can be about in some ways these two people. I think again Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine are so good that for me I care about them. I
Yeah,
want both of them to be in
this
be
is
be in better places than where they are at the
this is
start.
a character-driven piece rather than a world-driven
Yeah.
piece. You know,
Mhm.
as much as I said earlier, like with Fran, much of the film's events happen to her before she takes on that sense of agency.
Mhm.
The story wouldn't like the story happens because of the characters. The characters
Mhm.
aren't reacting to their situation; they're creating their situation.
Mhm.
And I think that the way that we see the arcs of our three main characters progress, thanks in large part to their strong performances, we end up with a character-driven piece that is a lot of fun to watch.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I think I yeah. I For me personally, I think The Apartment like is a film that both perfectly captures like old school styles of like filmmaking and storytelling, but is so perfectly done that again, I personally believe that anyone can watch and enjoy it. I think it's a yeah, even
Even George,
George could
even
could
George.
find enjoyment in this film from before 1980. It's a remarkable thing. But
I've recommended some old films, and I understand that they're not as easy to watch. This one, I think most people could watch it
yeah,
and get a lot out of it. You're right.
it like I would say if you're a person who unlike George like wants to get into old school
Oh my God.
films, but like
This is why he doesn't get into them.
but hasn't
Bully
done so
him.
before, or you have someone who like is like who's like, I can't watch films from before 1980. This is a good film to show because they'll still enjoy it.
Actually, we got to have a nice like medium here. If George gives an opinion about old movies and I go off on him, you can't also go off on him for not watching.
True.
I knew what I was signing up for when
How is he gonna ever get into this? I don't think he's masochist.
It's unfortunate Max couldn't be here tonight because I think because I would have also loved to hear his thoughts on the film, and he would have
I
probably
like.
like he would have also joined in on attacking you, George. Where let's be honest, so like
Yeah, he does that for fun, not because he believes in our opinions.
but yeah, but
I
no,
don't
no,
I
I
don't
think
get why you guys lash out when I only give you love and correct opinions.
you know,
Love.
it's
It's tough love.
I'm pretty sure Sheldrake has said that before in his life.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I love when she's like, yeah, no, I'm fine from all the sleeping pills. Why would you do such a thing, Fran? That's so
Yeah,
childish,
yeah.
mature.
Why would you do that to me? Like, I think he literally says, like, why? How could you do that
Yeah,
to
how
me?
could you do that to me? That's so
Like,
childish and mature.
he doesn't choose to talk to her like just after she's tried. Like,
Like,
oh my
now
gosh.
it's not a good time, but for 6 weeks we can go out on.
I'm gonna enjoy being a bachelor. It's like, shut the
I,
hell up, man.
it's
Uh,
kind of comedic how awful he is. I mean,
mhm, mhm. Like he's a real he's a real person, a real character, which makes his awfulness like way more impact, you
I
know?
think to see actual realistic people, not that they speak like we do or speak normally or whatever, but they are compassionate, like empathetic people. Like you can actually see yourself in their shoes and be like, oh yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And then to see them relate to this other like almost comedic caricature of just a intimidating executive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
You
not a
know, it's
caricature though. At the same
yeah.
time, like he is and he isn't.
Oh yeah, I don't mean like a caricature all the time, but there are some
Some
portions,
elements that are more stereotypical, more
yeah, where he's like, "How could you do this to me?" That is so
yeah.
childish.
Yeah. 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 I think like again, the the characters and themes of the film have, in my opinion, completely like are just as good as they were when they first like they feel just as relevant today as they feel when they first came out because I think this film is a fantastic example of script writing and storytelling and character work. I think for me, like again, this is why it's one of my favorite films. It's a perfect combination where every single piece comes together. That's for
And there's a
me.
Christmas party, which makes it applicable for this episode.
Though I
Sure.
would say it's more New Year's Eve because it ends on New Year's, but yeah, but it's substantial. So
The
so this
criteria
whole
was holiday.
yes, exactly. So, if you're looking for an atypical holiday film and something like that, and you haven't seen The Apartment, you can watch it this holiday season, and it will fit into your holiday rotation perfectly. I personally think it's great pick. I think you even both of you would agree as well.
I'm gonna say something controversial, and maybe
Oh,
it's just because I'm Jewish, but during Christmas time, you can watch any movie you want.
true. That is actually true. Oh God.
I'm gonna watch Christmas movies even harder.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
half Jewish.
Hell yeah,
Oh
Drew.
my God.
Well, whatever you decide to watch this holiday season, we at the Unqualified Film Bros podcast wish you a happy
A happy
holidays.
Americana Kwanzaa.
Yeah. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching this special episode. Go watch The Apartment. If it's streaming, I think it's streaming somewhere.
It's not. I had
And
to rent it.
oh wait, yes, no, it
It's streaming on some places for free if you want to take the 7-day trial.
true,
That's
true.
technically how it goes.
That's probably the best option. Or go to your local library and take a
Just
copy.
buy
Go
Anyway,
to your local library.
Just
It's
buy
great.
it.
anti-capitalist.
Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Anyway,
buy the physical version so that you don't support Jeff Bezos. You can
hell
take it at any
fucking
moment.
yes. Yes. I have the Arrowhead Blu-ray of The Apartment. It is 10 out of 10 beauty. Anyway, that's enough for now. We can go into it in our extended edition that won't come out. Anyway,
Declan's just getting ready for the extended edition of Napoleon.
amen. Anyway,
Well,
next
Ben, don't you start.
I love it.
tune in next week where I believe is next week Mac. No, never mind. Never mind.
Late
Sorry.
December, right?
May, December
Yeah.
next week.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Thank you. I was blanking
Can't
what it
wait.
is. Yeah, tune in next week for a far more creepy romance with May December. You'll see it there with hopefully with Max back. But till then, this has been the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.